hit 1:30.
Yay!
And we're all raiding Commissioner Zembauer's candy jar while he's not here, just to show you how adult we are. You just didn't get caught on the camera, but Lee Constantine is caught red-handed down there.
Got a new thing.
I am calling the meeting to order, sir.
Good.
God help us.
All right, so I will first look for proof of publication.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, it passes unanimously. Public hearing legislative, our first hearing today, and I appreciate our team helping the Port Authority come in the afternoon. So the first on the session is the Seminole County Port Authority budget presentation, and we have with us Andrew Van Gale to present. Andrew, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, staff. I'm here today with our chairman, Matthew Criswell, very dedicated long-term chairman and board member, so couldn't be more pleased having him along. And today we're going to talk about our fiscal year 26-27 budget. And, you know, we know you guys have an uphill battle coming soon, possibly, and we're keenly aware that, you know, the landscape is going to be very important for the Port Authority and agencies like ours to, you know, look to the future and step up and be part of, you know, solutions to what's happening out here. So we're cognizant of that, and knowing that we're almost rounding the corner on a lot of our major projects and onto the maintenance scheme to where, you know, we predict a good, steady, healthy revenue stream to help with those pending legislative changes. So with that, I'm Andrew Van Gale. We're here to present the budget for 26-27. And the Port Authority approved this in June, so we're here today to recommend approval and inclusion into your budget as an enterprise fund. So for a few numbers, I'll make it brief today. We've done a few things this year. We conducted a facility condition assessment with Withers Ravenel to kind of assess all our facilities and kind of assess our capital needs and maintenance needs for the future. And we're really pleased to say that the outcome was really exceptional, very good to almost excellent of a lot of our facilities, meaning we can kind of start budgeting to maintaining and keeping up the high level of service and you know, our condition of our facilities we have for the future to be competitive in the industrial market, because it is very competitive out there. Third year of our rental rate increase out of a 5-year plan. We're almost there. We've substantially increased our rental rates. And our numbers show that within the next couple of years from when we started this, should be additional $1 million a year into revenue. So we're really almost there. We're probably 70% there. So doing good on that. Our redevelopment site, we've completed 2 major construction projects. These new buildings, they're fully leased, occupied, and the third one now is in permitting here and almost ready to go. So that'll be really a nice addition to the port. Should be about $350,000 a year extra on that. So on to that, our occupancy is still strong, just about 90% all year long, so we're holding steady there. And so what this budget does today, you've all got a chance to look at it. The total budget is $6,835,529. Operational revenue is increasing to $3,009,213. Our expenditures have gone down to $4,268,030. And part of that expenditure, we have about a $2.7 million capital budget. That's to complete one last building and some other, you know, paving and infrastructure needs. And that surplus fund contribution, we stayed steady this year. October will bring you $250,000. This budget contemplates another $250,000 with, you know, assessment at the end of the year to see what's left for additional and how we, you know, finish off this next year. And, you know, like keeping in mind that, you know, it's going to be important to start upping that contribution. We understand that. Just for a little historical perspective, from 2001 to 27, about $13 million in contributions. That's $500,000 a year. We average it out. So I think we hopefully can see that number continuing to grow and stay about the static there. And with that, we're here to ask for adoption of our budget and for any questions you may have.
Board members?
I have no questions. Madam Chair, I believe you sit on that committee. I'd like
I do.
to get a briefing from you publicly, if you wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind. I was going to do that at the end
Yeah.
if no one else has any other comments. I would tell you that the work that's been done over the past 5 or 6 years has been significant in terms of doing an appraisal of all of the facilities out there and making sure that we were getting the best return on the asset for our citizens. That is not an easy task when you've had longtime renters that have become accustomed to very small rate increases. And so Andrew wisely brought in a step plan, and the board did approve it. And we did, our occupancy rate was 100% for a while, and we're now at 90%, but the step plan has continued to raise revenue despite the loss in occupancy rate. I personally think 100% occupancy rate is an indication of an issue, and we've addressed the issue. The 2 buildings are up and rented, and we've been telling you for a long time, we're coming, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming. They're now here, and the 3rd one is in the works. I would also tell you that we have done, and you didn't bring this up, and I commend you for that, but I'm going to. We have done an amazing amount of work at the marina. And so the things that were happening out there that were not acceptable have been resolved. We have a new owner that took a level of patience and persistence led by our chairman that was pretty significant, and it took a heck of a lot of legal fees. Heck of a lot of legal fees. So if you're looking at any line items, that's the one you should be asking about. But we've come through the other end of that with a really good outcome. I will say that the attorney that we have representing us has done an amazing job with that. I think we'd all say that, with the right mix of legal advice and every now and then a little bit of business advice that got us in the right direction. So we, I think, are in the best place that we've been in years, with a long-term view of how do we get this thing to be as performing of an asset as it can possibly be into the long term. And that was the idea behind the Withers-Ravenel maintenance schedule. They did a complete analysis because, quite frankly, it was all done before with when somebody moved out, we knew we had a problem, or Andrew assessing the place, Andrew and Jennifer figuring it out as they went along. We need a succession plan where we can see what's out there. There's a lot of assets out there. There's a lot of impact out there. With the changing of Orange Boulevard, which I promise is going to happen sometime, some way, someday, probably maybe before I'm gone, that asset's pretty significant. So now's the time to get it set. How's that, Commissioner Delary?
Perfect. You recommend we adopt the budget?
I do recommend you adopt the budget.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-27 Port Authority budget as presented here today. With your comments.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
I would only say that I think that in the last couple of years, it in fact has turned a corner to a very professional operation, and having the one major tenant turnover, I think is not only a huge asset for the taxpayers, but also with the known issues we had with crime at the restaurant area over there will now be put to rest, and I thank the sheriff's office for assisting with that as well. So good work all the way around. Thank you.
There were a few tow truck drivers in that as well.
Yeah, right.
That were super important. All right, did we vote?
No, we
No,
did not.
Chairman,
We did-
before you call for the vote, could I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
Matthew Criswell, Chairman of the Seminole County Port Authority, 13 years. I've seen a lot change out there. I was a contractor out there before that. I just want to say thank you to Andrew for leading the charge there. We've had some hiccups out there with the restaurant and the marina, but we've got new owners in that have brought just this massive influx of not only capital, but just a newfound resilience in it. They're ready to hit the road running. The new buildings that are going up are going to be a facelift for it. We've got new roadways, new water, stormwater drainage out there. The place in the last decade has turned around 180 degrees. It looks fantastic. I also want to say thank you to the chairwoman for sitting on our board. She brings the wealth of knowledge, not only business-wise, but also county and politic-wise. So we appreciate that, and I think we've got another decade or two that are just going to lead the charge out there. So stick with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can't even keep the straight face. We all know I don't have much insight into politics, but thank you for that compliment, and I will thank the chair. You've done a great job. We have a really good, strong board with a little bit more diversification now with some of the new appointees, so we're in a good spot. So with that, no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
And
Thank you
all
both
again.
for all of
You're
your
great to
work.
work with.
Good to see
Thank
y'all.
you.
Call us only if you need us.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
You know, when I started, you were the only one on this board, Denari, 2006.
All right, easy.
Don't blow it now, Andrew. Don't blow it.
Better get it out of here.
Bye, guys.
And next time, bring the check next time, Andrew.
All right, I think we have an opportunity for public comment, but there is none.
There was none, correct.
Okay, just want to get that on the record. All right, county managers' report and staff presentations.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We committed to this board about a year ago to follow up once our code enforcement team had been put in place in October 1st, 2025, to give you an update. So it's my pleasure to share with you this update. Mr. Rhodes is going to kick it off, and then our division manager, John Martin, will step in. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Again, Mike Rhodes, Development Services Director. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today about where we've been and where we're going with code enforcement. As Tricia said, it was almost a year and a half ago that this board decided to bring code enforcement back underneath the Board of County Commissioners and make some fundamental changes to how we do our work. So today I want to provide you with this update on kind of, our implementation process, what we've been able to accomplish over the last year, and then opportunities for continued improvement, again, as we know that's what you are looking for. I'm going to go over a background here, current status and some case highlights, year 2 goals and opportunities, particularly some in light of possibilities for Amendment 3, although we won't go too deep into that, and then recommendations and next steps as we move into our second year. First, just to kind of take you back, a little trip through time. We did a lot of work modernizing your code. We went through Chapter 53, Chapter 95, adopted a new International Property Maintenance Code. We amended Chapter 120. We had amended Chapter 168. And we got all of those code amendments done with terrific support and help from Kate and the County Attorney's Office, in particular Jen Nix. So thank you, Jen. There's a lot of work involved, and we still have more to do, but I just want to tell you they've been terrific partners in making a lot of these changes and making this process work for us even better. In addition to that, we had to kind of build the infrastructure, and so we got John on board, and John developed standard operating procedures and job descriptions, and he started recruitment, and we're going to introduce you to those folks here in a second. We also had to do a lot of case review, look at the old cases that were coming back from the sheriff's office and coming from the building department to see what we were what we're inheriting in that regard. And we still have this ahead of us. We've got some work to do with case migration into our new platform coming online with Excella in October. So we've got the infrastructure built. John went ahead and got the folks hired, and we commenced operations on October 1st with officers out into the field. As you know, the team is led by John, and I want to tell you, John's been a terrific leader really since pre-day one. And it's not just me that says so. I can tell you at the same time he started with us as our division manager of code enforcement, he was also elected to be the president of the Florida Association of Code Enforcement, so he is regarded by his peers as an expert. Fortunately for us, he's finished his term as the president, so he's going to have a little bit more bandwidth since that's finished up. But John, together with his team here, have over 160 years of experience in code enforcement and law enforcement, and that's pretty unusual for a startup organization of any kind to bring that kind of experience on board. So with that, I want to go ahead and turn it over to John and ask him to come on up and walk you through some of the details of what we've been able to accomplish over the last year.
Absolutely. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hi, John.
And I want to assure each one of you that I took care of all the sobbing during the morning session, because that broke my heart. I'd like to back up one slide if we could and introduce you to your team. Instead of using the photograph, we're just going to go down the line. Right here on the very end is Stephen Zanowick. Stephen came to us with 30 years of law enforcement experience from the U.S. Marshal's Office. Next door to him is Miss Katina Hill. She has over 10 years in code enforcement experience in the Orange County. Right next to her is Christian Castaneda. He's your multifamily commercial inspector, and Christian brings to the table 30 years of housing experience in code enforcement. Then you have Miss Julie Hebert, my blessing from building, who was intricate part in helping us with the building case migration. To her left is the amazing, talented Alexis Vail, our clerk of the magistrate, who's done a phenomenal job helping me get acclimated to the way the county does things and help me get the magistrate streamlined. Right next to her is Mr. Christopher Smith. He has 25 years in code enforcement and Air Force experience. He was a military police officer, and now he leads this team as my right hand. Jamoral Jackson, the tall, handsome fellow there, is my nuisance abatement and pool officer. Jay comes to us with over 25 years of experience, and Ms. Shawnette Williams, who helps with our admin processes, and some 20 years of experience. Also, I need to poke fun at Mr. Rhodes behind me, who we didn't add to this, but he is an intricate part of the team with his 31 years of experience. So we'll move on to the next slide, and this next slide is pretty exciting because when I got here and I started digging around and poking for stuff, I was like, what is that? And I found a little block on the bottom of the county webpage that said Seminole 311, so I opened it up and started playing with it, and I found out that citizens could call in complaints from their phones on here, and I said, we need to use this, so we started using it. And then I started using it for its reporting purposes to figure out where do they need to be. And if you look at the dots on the screen, the dots represent completed inspections that have occurred since we started. And you can see that there was actually a pendulum shift. I originally thought we're going to put it into 4 zones, and we're going to put officers in each zone and have one guy handle abatements. And now what we ended up with is we have an east side inspector, a west side inspector, a lot cleaning, or I call her my hotspot inspector. She does just lawns and junk. Cars, junk, lawns throughout the county. Then I said, well, I got to have my nuisance abatement guy, I got to have a multifamily guy, which we'll go into why that happened here shortly in a few slides. And then we needed somebody on the west side. And somebody was familiar with the west side, and that's Shannon Henson, who's unfortunately not here with us, but I think she's on her second honeymoon or something. I don't know. Shannon's amazing, and Shannon brings 20 years of experience to the team. So if we could go on to the next slide.
Okay.
You'll see on the next slide here that this is how we originally configured the zones, and you'll notice that our CEZ zones, code enforcement zone, does not mimic a commission district, and that was deliberate because I wanted to make sure that each zone had vast experience. One officer may be very strong in housing, one officer might have been very strong in commercial, one officer may have known this better, one didn't know that as well, so they were close to each other yet able to serve each other. This was how we did it in the beginning, and now we've changed it a little bit, and it's divided into east and west with these the 3 specialty officers. We can go on to the next slide. I'm very excited. This is one of my happy slides. I even laminated this one. I love it so much. To date, your nuisance abatement officer has had 33 homeowners demolish their abandoned, nuisance, dangerous, vacant structures on their own dime. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is.
That's amazing. Roughly, if you looked at what the abatement costs are about, it's about $11,000 per abatement. So it comes out to about $363,000 worth of costs that we didn't have to look at taxpayers for. So we're very proud of that. 62 multifamily properties were inspected by Officer Castaneda, and I helped out as much as I could, but not nearly enough, I'm sure. To date, he has 16 open cases on apartment communities. The remainder of those are in compliance. 133 junk cars were removed by owners at their dime, not ours. 178 lawns were either cleaned up and or mowed by property owners, and not a cent of taxpayer money was spent to do that. So a total of 884, I think it's closer to 950 as of today. Snipe signs have been removed, and I know what you're going to say, there's 950 more out there waiting. And there are, and I have a philosophy on how I'm going to handle that with my citation program, so we're going to the next step soon. As of 2 nights ago, we've now made 13 community meetings. We have had our lot cleaning contractor clean 3 lots, and we have been paid back by a citizen for 1. We just put another lady on a payment plan for the second one. In addition, we've collected $187,000 in fines and other revenues thus far. So that slide is something that we're very proud of. For the time frame that we started to where we are today, this is a great kicking off point. If we could go to the next slide. The next slide is very important because it shows responsiveness to community concerns. And if you look at the very dark green big piece, that represents the amount of complaints that came in from citizens, either through the app, through the emails, or through direct phone line to either Julie or the 311-0000 number. Those are where those complaints are derived from. On the other side, the pale green represents officer-initiated cases. And please understand, officer-initiated cases aren't these guys driving around going, I need to cite something, I need to cite something. If you call in a complaint and you say at Mike's house, he's got high grass and weeds, and on the way to Mike's house, there's 3 lawns that are as high as Mike's, they're required to address those 3 lawns. We're not going to target Mike because Mike was the only person that got complained on. We have to be equitable in our enforcement, and that's what the team does. We don't, unless we are invited, and on several of those, we were invited by communities to please come sweep our community, it's bad. And we've done that. But the majority of the time, when you see self-initiated, think this is an equitable response to a citizen complaint. We're not headhunters. We're not out there looking for people to pick on. I definitely want to put that thought process to rest. This slide is one that's also laminated. It's on the back page of the first one I laminated, but this proves you're right. And why do I say that? Because if you look at this slide, 1,626 cases were originated. 967 of those came into compliance prior to the need to send a notice of hearing. The next number is 659, were notices of hearing sent to people who were like, I don't think you're serious. So I'm going to show you how serious we are. Here comes your certified mail, right? Of that 659, 65 cases had to be presented to a magistrate. That means only 4% of the cases required that were cited actually had to be presented to a magistrate. What that means in dollars and cents is that we were able to, through what you asked for, communication and follow-up, deliver voluntary compliance. And that's what you said was lacking. I remember those words the first time I met you. We believe that with the proper communication and follow-up, our citizens will do the right thing if they're educated and communicated with. You were right. Give yourselves a round of applause. The next slide is a fun slide. It says case highlights, doesn't really have a lot on it, but then we're going to flip to this one. You may have remembered this case, a young lady who was pregnant, went to look at an apartment, and as she went up the staircase, she actually got to ride it to the ground. Chris and myself responded to this as a request of the fire department. When we got out there, we immediately taped this off, and we went in different directions. And we went in different directions. We saw very similar conditions. We then embarked on a complete building-by-building inspection, which resulted in us requiring that complex to replace 88 staircases because there wasn't one on the property that was safe. Of those, next slide, please. Of those 88 staircases today, every one of them are replaced with passing final building permit inspections, and they are painted. So that property right now had a lot of fire violations that we were able to get into compliance, as well as this life safety issue that we were able to put into compliance, ensuring that we don't have another incident like that again. On the next slide, this lovely, beautiful property was the scene of several calls for service from the sheriff's office. It's off of St. John's, and there was a really beautiful picture on the other side that I chose not to put in this slideshow, but the house was unsecured. There's actually no floor system inside of it whatsoever. It's when you walk in, it's straight dirt. The property was for sale. The gentleman was trying to get it rezoned and sold, and he wasn't having a whole lot of luck, and I pretty much told him, you've got 2 choices. You demo it or I will. Because I cannot have a vacant, unsecure structure sitting here where drugs and other, I can't risk a citizen getting drug in there. I can't risk more calls for service to our sheriff's department. They have enough to do. He saw the light, and the next slide shows what happened. As of today, that mess is gone. He has passed his final inspection as he demoed the property under permit. And again, that was done on his dime, not ours. So the next slide is fun. Got a complaint off of Lake Mobile where a gentleman was using a vacant parcel not owned by himself to scrap to make ends meet, and he had a nice little setup going there. He would drag out his trailer and he'd pick up your metals from your garbage and he'd bring it back there and strip them clean, et cetera, et cetera. The next slide shows you an example of working with someone to help someone get their needs met through other measures and get this property cleaned up. I'd like to draw your attention to the next slide, if I may. This property was as a result of a sheriff's office search warrant on North US Highway 1792. There were drugs and human trafficking going on here. When we responded to the property, we found multiple RVs, containers, trailers, et cetera, with people living in them. Junk cars were aplenty. And we cited the property for a lot of different violations. We worked with the property owner very closely in a very short period of time. The next slide shows the result of education, follow-through, and communication. So looking ahead at year 2, goals and opportunities, we want to strengthen the existing programs, and part of that is that you currently have vacation rentals and a foreclosure program that we want to look at efficiencies for. And we have some ideas that we would like to bring back before you at a later time. The foreclosure registration program and the vacation rentals, along with that will be the parking ordinance. There are a couple of little pieces of the parking ordinance that if changed, we would be able to address the parking, some of the parking issues that we have within unincorporated Seminole County. And the Sheriff's Department has already said, please do that, John. But it's a tool in our toolbox. It's not a revenue source by any stretch of the imagination, but if I run your car, if I tag your car and you move it into the street, I need to be able to deal with that. And the Sheriff's Office is far too busy to be bothered with that. Also, by the end of this month, your team will have our state accreditation package submitted, and by the end of this year, I would assume probably December, first week of December, we should be your very first state accredited code enforcement agency. At that, I'm going to turn the rest of it over to Mr. Rhodes. He's going to evaluate new processes and then talk about our last page. Any questions for me? If you think of any, you bring me up. I'm just sitting there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Commissioners, you got a little taste of what we've been able to accomplish. There's a lot more to do. John talked about some of the efficiencies that we'd like to look at, improvements that we'd like to make to the registration programs. We also want to talk with you and begin to talk with the County Attorney's Office about foreclosures and foreclosure initiatives. Again, the state statute provides that after 3 months of running fines, the county or municipality that has the fines is able to foreclose. And while foreclosure is probably not, it's not the first thing that we're looking for to try to do. It's, again, as John said, a tool in the toolbox. It's really the last resort in most instances. We cannot foreclose on homestead properties, but there are those cases where we need to be able to foreclose in order to recover the taxpayers' investments, your investments in this program, and in many ways to kind of get the properties turned over so that they're better performing. So we want to talk with you more about that over the coming year, and that's not I realize that's a little bit taller mountain to climb, but I think it's important to be able to do that because it's how you really put teeth in the program, and it's not something that we would do, again, haphazardly. But we want to try to find an efficient way of doing that. Finally, we are going to be focusing on, again, learning lessons, and we're learning lessons every single day about how to do a better job for you all. And we're looking forward to feedback this afternoon if you have any for us. We do want to improve the existing registration programs. They're not performing as well as they should be, could be. We are not getting the kind of information that we need to be getting in order to make sure that these expectations that you have for how they operate provide us with the information that we need. We want to look at some additional tools for chronic and repeat violations. You saw an example last week of what you can do with the irreparable or irreversible kind of a violation. There's also the opportunity in the statute, and we included it when we did our revisions to the code, to also impose fines for repeat violations. And we haven't come across a case like that yet, but it's coming, I think. We also want to be able to just kind of take the opportunity again to get some feedback from you all as to what we're doing well, what you'd like to see us improve on. We are looking forward to moving onto the Excella platform, so you're going to have something that's more broadly available to you all, to your staff, as well as provide you with the statistical information that you're looking for, the dashboards that you're looking for. And we hope to have all that stuff deployed again later in October, and we'll have meaningful data that we'll be able to begin to show you just on a live basis going forward here in the next year. So with that, I'll end my part and shut up and listen.
Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Zibel.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. My district has had a lot of problems, and we've heard from residents in my district about how well it looks now compared to what it did a year ago. There's still work to be done, as many of you are aware, but citizen input has been very good in telling us that they're starting to see things much better than they were several years ago. So thank you all for all your hard work, leadership. Thank you for leading us in the right direction, bringing those policies and procedures in place to get this off the ground and working. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
I actually do have a question or two. Go ahead.
Oh, you go first, Madam Chair.
With regard to the incident that happened with the stairs at the apartment complex, are we doing anything to proactively check these facilities? We now have more and more of them, as we hear every day.
I'll take a shot. So, and John can speak to the specifics of it, but he did mention in his presentation that he and his team looked at 62 apartment complexes across the county, and there are still more to look at. But I can tell you, these folks are taking a proactive look at those properties in particular because they have not been looked at proactively, and they certainly need to be. So
So proactively, one time doesn't count as proactively for me. So we're getting ahead of our past behaviors, and so now take me to proactively.
Absolutely. Pursuant to statute, multifamily structures higher than 2 stories are required to be inspected annually. Prior to our inceptions, that was somebody else's responsibility, and as of now, it's ours. Okay. So you have the confidence of knowing that this code enforcement team will be on every multifamily property annually at the minimum.
It's higher than 2 stories.
Yes, ma'am.
For everyone.
Yes.
I'm good with either, but.
It's anything higher than 2 stories. We're just now getting into the condos. We finished all the apartments. We're working in the condos right now. As you well know, that's going to take a little longer because you have so many more owners involved and so many more chefs stirring the pot. But they're still very good about getting compliance. So our plan is as we complete the year to start over. Okay. And revisit these that's why I assigned Christian as the multifamily commercial inspector. So that's all his job is. We don't want to recreate the sins of the past ever again. So
thank you.
Absolutely.
And then just perspective on foreclosures. I know you said that was a tall path to go down, and I would tell you that it's not homestead property. It is not a stretch for me at all, because one of the things that I have in my district that's fairly regular is that these are just properties that somebody's sitting on from out of state, and they ruin the rest of the neighborhood, and we struggle with that. So I think it's actually helps the homeowners that are living in their homes to take care of the neighborhoods if we have to go that far, and I doubt we ever will. As we've proved on your pie chart, on your funnel, we probably will never have to go that far, but having the ability to go that far is important in some instances.
Well, it is important to note that we do have several from the past that
Yep.
we want to talk to the board about in detail at a later time. But I believe, as the board believes, we have to be good stewards. So
Yeah.
anytime the county expends money, we have to look at an option to get that back. And we've done well. I think Alexis and Julie have done very well in sending notices to people that have liens. Hey, you still have a lien. Come talk to us. But we need more tools.
Fabulous. Any other comments? Yes. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to get into a list, but there are a number of things that should be looked at on an annual basis, both structural and other disciplines as well. I just want to make sure you are systematically going through that overall list that should be looked at from a safety standpoint.
I have a list, and I'd love to go over yours with you so that we can make sure we're both on the same page.
I'm not the local expert. Whatever you think is appropriate from a legal standpoint, that's what's important.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Then the other comment I have is under your goals and opportunities. I like the idea that you're looking at vacation rentals. Please involve tourism. I think tourism is just as important on that one aspect because the two groups should work well together.
And just to add to that, along the same lines, the Apartment Association is out there. We want to engage with them. They've been important partners in the past, at least in my working. So, it's a great education opportunity. They turn over a lot of their management staff. And so, the work that we do with those constituencies, I'll just say, is also important. And John and his team are out there proactively engaging them as well.
Because it's not just stairs, there's other things to look at as well.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Lockhart.
Just refresh my memory. How much of the inspection requirement only became relevant with our adoption of the property maintenance code? So my question is, we're saying we didn't do all of these things that were required to be done, but how many of those only became effective with our implementation of the property maintenance code?
So we had a minimum housing code, but it was not being enforced by anybody. And part of it was because it was 30 years old. Part of it was because the staff that we did have engaged on the sheriff's side were really only looking at single-family residential and primarily complaint-based information, complaint-based cases. So I won't say that we adopted new obligations, I suppose, so much as we updated the code standards that we had to make sure that we could look at all of the property in the county rather than what we had been doing just as a matter of practice, which was kind of these siloed approaches. And so a lot of what John and his team have done have, again, gotten us out of the silo, I'll say collectively, so that we're working more proactively with the fire department, with the sheriff's department. But I hesitate to say it's new. It's simply we're doing it the way we should be doing it. Is that?
So I guess I'll probably need clarification then, because there were multiple times that there were situations in my district where folks would be called out to look at things that were structural or property maintenance related, and the response repeatedly was, that's not a part of our code, we don't enforce that. I'm not saying that to you specifically in this current setting, but historically, the response that I was given as a commissioner was, well, that's not a part of our code, it's not something the county enforces, it's not something that the code enforcement at the sheriff's office handles. And so we just would go, okay, I guess that's not something we do. So what I'm struggling with is how either I was given misinformation back then, or I was told that it was the implementation of the new property maintenance code that is now allowing you to do some of these things.
Back then, you had the building code was the only code you had to fall back on when there was something that was alleged to be structural in nature. So it was very limited as to who could respond and look at what. The requirement for the multifamily has always been in place. With the International Property Maintenance Code, what you did was allow your team to be able to handle everything from the shed, the fence, the condo, the industrial park, the stormwater drain, the fallen tree. That's what you enabled us to do by giving us that, is you took everything from that basket and that one over there, and you put it all in one place. And now that we've done that, we have the efficient means to address those issues and then lay down a timeline to stay preventative moving forward. Does that make sense? Does that help a little?
It does. It does. I think it's a testimony to not having things, is trifurcated a word?
Or quadrification.
Yeah, quadrificated.
Quadrificated.
Yeah. Yes, it does. For another time.
But to your point, one of the things that we talked about when we adopted these new standards and adopted the International Property Maintenance Code and created this division was to eliminate, the finger pointing and the who's supposed to be doing what, and make it all, and make it easy.
Got it.
So the tools are there now, I'll say that. And we want to keep working on them, but the tools are there, the responsibility's there, the team is in place.
We eliminated the disconnects.
Yep.
Commissioner Zembauer?
To that point, yes, I think my experience going down this route was, well, that's a building official's problem to deal with. We don't deal with that. Or that's development services, or that's a permitting problem. And under this new, it appears you've brought all that together under one umbrella to be able to deal with that.
Correct.
Some of them were fire marshal issues that, you had to communicate to somebody else in another department. That department doesn't know what that's going on. I think now there's communication amongst the departments and understanding you all have the tools to go do what is necessary and use those other assets to your ability to bring them into compliance. So with that said, and I think, John, you and I have had this discussion a couple times because we've got a couple in my district, of course. These home-based businesses, which are allowable to a certain extent, this is probably a legal attorney question. I wonder because in my district, I have auto repair facilities operating out of people's homes. I have boat repair facilities operating out of people's homes. What are we doing to make sure that the waste oil, the cleaning chemicals, the welding equipment, and all the things that are being utilized in that are not presenting a public safety issue or an environmental hazard?
I'm glad you asked.
Just like is being done on the commercial side
Right.
that we have to adhere to.
Right, I'm glad you asked. Last week's training, and the team, probably any one of them could come up here and do this for me right now, but under Florida Statute 559955, the home-based business rule statute that was enacted a few years back allows you to operate a business on your property, provided that the work is being done on your property, is number one. Number two, that the employees either reside, most of the employees reside there, two can come from somewhere else and work there. Number three, the property parking must be that consistent with the rest of the community. So if everybody's got no semis and you have 4 semis, we have a not congruent with the rest of the community problem. The other issue is if that business manufactures something, they can't sell it out of the shed, they have to sell it out of the principal structure. So it kind of really locks them into this little area where they're very limited on what they can do. Service-related industry in a home-based business does not fit 559955. It does not. For me to build you a race car in my front yard and sell it to you, it would not be allowable under 559955. For me to make you a pen and sell it to you at my front door is perfectly allowable. For me to make you cottage food industry, jams, cakes, pies, and sell them to you is perfectly legal. A lot of the things that have been going on in that area out there, being that it's rural and it's so far out and people just, thought they could, they can't. And we're doing a lot of re-educating with people, and we're getting much cooperation. I have to tell you that they're probably the easiest people in the world to work with.
Good.
And a lot of them, based on some of the things that they've been doing and the length of time they've been doing it, as long as certain caveats are being put into place, like show me a contract with a waste oil disposal company, show me a contract with a battery disposal company, along those lines. And then when anyone was to drive past the beginning of, past that property, so provided it looks like every other property in the community, we're not going to come down on you.
Right.
You start junking up my neighborhood, spilling your oil in the street, then I have to take exception to that. And we
Sure.
have to have that other conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a big re-education push because of the misconception of 559.
Yeah, and I often worry about, only because I'm in and have been in those type businesses, that life safety.
Absolutely.
When you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles or more in a confined area, and you have, unfortunately, a fire that sets out, is our fire marshal aware of that? Is our fire department aware that that's what they're responding to? More of a commercial setting than a residential setting, number one.
Right.
Number two, the amount of focus we put on water quality and all those things, where is the waste oil going? Where are the chemicals going?
Absolutely.
And that's always a concern that I have,
Right.
of what's going on in some of those instances.
When we took your concern that you and I talked about very early on, and we looked at those properties out there with people doing things similar to those, and we looked at how do we protect the environment? What are your
Sure.
disposal methods? What are you actually doing? Can you do this? Is there a way to help you to be able to do this to supplement
Right.
your income, or is this your primary focus? Well, the big caveat with 559 is you have to actually live on the property.
Sure.
You can't just get a piece of rural boundary property and run a business out of it.
Right.
That's a no. So one of the things that we've been doing is looking through each of these businesses on these areas, and this is countywide.
Sure.
The first thing we do is we make sure if there is a business, that there's a BTR.
Right.
And can there be a BTR? If they can, then we make sure they get it. And that's one of the ways that fire would know that there's something other than a residence going on here when they get there. Part of the other additional things that we're going to talk to you about in year 2 would be the RV ordinance, because some of these properties have 11 RVs on them. You and I both know if I park an RV between your house and mine and my RV bursts into flames, you're losing just as much as I am.
Right.
So one of the things that we'll want to talk to you later on next year about is doing something to improve those problems.
Sure.
But with people living in RVs, you then have to deal with sewage disposal. So we have, as you well know, we have our hands quite full.
Right.
And we're trying to prioritize what needs to be addressed. And then that's why this November issue is so critical to all of us, because
Sure.
as you can see, most of the 3,600 inspections and the cases that were conducted to bring them into compliance are most likely a reduction in calls for service to the sheriff's office, the fire department, EMS,
Sure.
environmental, water quality.
Right.
But please, every one of y'all know how to get a hold of me. All you have to do is message me, and I'll stop what I'm doing and run to see you. I'll be happy to talk to you
Don't
one-on-one,
do
answer
that.
any
Yeah,
questions you
Don't do
have.
that.
Don't do that. Don't tell us you're doing that.
Don't.
Y'all know that.
And one final question.
Yes, sir.
Are we on our way to getting body cams for our code enforcement officers?
As you might imagine, Commissioner, we're having to look at budget cuts at this time.
Understood.
And, well, I don't know about that. You keep bringing it up, too. It's something that we realize is a benefit to us across the board. There's also a cost to maintaining all the data. We have worked with IT to look at that right now, and we're still evaluating it at the moment, and I'm sure we'll be in a better position to make a better educated decision November 4th.
Fair enough.
See how good he does that?
Assistant County Manager, I think, wanted to say something?
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say it's serendipitous that I got to sit here for Darren today, because probably in my 12 years at the county, the establishment of this division is what I'm most proud of. And we all have a lot to be proud of when you look at the work they've done. And I really wanted to thank this commission. It wouldn't have happened had you not made the decision to bring code enforcement in-house. So thank you, and thank you for your support of this team. It's a great example of when you put the right people in the seats of the bus, or whatever that cliche is, what can happen. And also to Mike and John and Jen Nix, who were in the trenches last summer. It was nice to not see them for a little while after we got through all the code updates. but we're all very proud. Thank you.
Well, and this can't go unsaid either, and that is that we had what we all felt like was a mess boiling under the surface of the water, and Tricia just had heard enough and said, "Give it to me. I'll take it," and then walked down the hall like that, and then took it and did it. And so we appreciate you. We know this is not the only thing that's ever happened with, but this certainly has had a significant impact on the community, so we're in debt to you as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you. And as all have said, not only is the compliance so much better, but the response back to the office is so much better. I mean, instead of going into a black hole and not knowing what's happening, you're getting back to our offices so that we can get back to the citizens, and I really appreciate it. I do have a sensitive question, and if you'd rather answer it offline, I'll be happy to do it. But in my district, since I don't know how many years, but it's been at least 20, I have a habitual offender, and who has amassed liens and fines of over 20 times the value of his property. And I'm going to make it non-specific, to habitual violators that you're never going to be able to get the money back. Is there any other thing that we can do?
My response would be we can ask the legislature to change the state statute so that we can have the same kind of authority to foreclose under certain circumstances on homestead properties. And that's certainly the predicament that we're in right now, and I don't see that happening based upon my experience dealing with the legislature, but I do know that from time to time, even with those properties, windows open, and we always look for those windows to open, and so when they do, and we can take more action, we will.
Well, and I would say, Commissioner Constantine, this may be an opportunity for you to work with FAC to put it on the top of one of their priorities for the legislative session.
The poor citizens, and that's a good suggestion, but the poor citizens that live around there.
It's terrible.
I mean, you feel, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
What they have to put up with, and the value of their property is diminished immensely.
And in some instances to zero, because you cannot sell it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I can promise you, every community has someone like that, and I think with the right kind of guardrails built in, the legislature can give us the authority to deal with that, but it's going to take a lot of work across the state of Florida.
All right.
If it's any consolation, there are developments, and I am on top of it, and I will stay with my teeth to his leg until I get what I want.
I was going to ask you to
Thank
pull the
you.
microphone over, but don't. He just said he was going to stay on top of it. All right, any other comments, commissioners? With that, thank you all for the presentation, and thank you all for
very
the hard
much.
work that
Thank
you've
you.
given all year long. And it's okay to smile.
Yeah. Thank you all.
All right, that takes us to District Commissioner reports. District 2, Commissioner Zimbauer.
I don't have a whole lot to report. I just want to remind folks, I always have animal issues in my district. We have an HOA that has an overabundance of Muscovy ducks that have invaded their HOA areas, and we've forwarded it over to FWC and let FWC deal with it. But just a friendly reminder to the public, Muscovy ducks are a non-native Floridian bird, but they still are protected from cruelty, so we do not suggest you do anything to these animals. Contact FWC for guidance. Likewise, don't feed these ducks, because feeding these ducks do nothing but draw more ducks.
Make them fat.
And then you will be overrun with Muscovy ducks. So just a public service announcement, don't feed the Muscovy ducks. Let them come and go, and they'll go to the next HOA, and they'll fly and walk 10 blocks away to the other HOA. But if you've got a couple folks that just like to feed the ducks, guess what? They're going to be there for a while. Outside of that, everything else is doing well in District 2.
All right, I'm going to go backwards because I skipped the county attorney and the county manager. Did you feel left out?
I did, but I have no report.
Thought maybe we should get that on the record.
I do have a couple of things Darren
Awesome.
gave me. So, as of September 10th, we will celebrate the opening of the Nygren Carriage Collection at the Museum of Seminole County History, and we want to thank the Seminole County Historical Society for really championing that collection. So,
What date again?
September 10th.
Okay.
And that's been a long time coming. So definitely wanted to share that. Additionally, we want to highlight that Seminole County's Mark Sand Conservation Strategy has received a 2026 Alician, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, Woolbrook NATO Impact Award. Working with the East Central Florida Regional Resilience Collaborative and Stetson University, county data was analyzed using the Mark Sand Conservation Strategy to identify important natural areas and opportunities to reduce flooding, improve stormwater management, and support conservation. And just two other pieces of good news. Our solid waste team earned a national award for the Solid Waste Association of North America for our recycling program. And our communications team received 3 awards at the recent Florida Public Relations Association Golden Image Awards for our Citizens Academy. So that's not only a congratulations to them, but our departments who participate in that.
Great.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Great.
Awesome, awesome. I didn't say go Hatters when you said that.
I know, I was
Thank
gonna
you,
say.
Stetson. Yeah, go Hatters. Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you very much. On August 20th, the Seminole Chamber had a business awards for Seminole County at the Hilton in Altamont Springs. And one thing that was very heartwarming is how many of our businesses are so much involved in the community and involved in the philanthropic activities with this community. So congratulations to all. Also that day, the Tourist Development Council and the TID Advisory Board had a meeting mostly about, obviously, the sports complex and information on that, but also the fact of how successful so many of our programs have been, whether it be through our advertising, social media, all the way through just the increases with the hotels. I can tell you that the hotels are also continue to be very supportive and excited about the sports complex. This morning at 9 a.m., virtually, there was a statewide council of opioid abatement. I was there for the first 15 minutes. Could not be there for the rest of the time, obviously. Tomorrow, the Florida Trust is having one of their semi-annual meetings, so I will be attending that. The Seminole Chamber, again, on August 27th, will be having a business resource at Seminole State College in Heathrow, and I think that's always helpful to many of our businesses and citizens. The next series on the data centers for NACO will be on the 28th, and this one will be on understanding electricity and the use of electricity for data centers. September 3rd at Good Morning Seminole, there is going to be an update from the zoo. And to finish this off, and in a very exciting and happy comment, tomorrow, one of our citizens who had lived in Robin Hill since 1969 will be 103 years old. Bob Lowe. He's one of the now continuing to dwindle World War II veterans. He was a Navy Master Chief Petty Officer in World War II. And Mr. Epps and so many of his neighbors in Robin Hills will be giving him a party outside at 5:30. All are welcome to go if you can. And Mr. Lowe is a wonderful person, and a happy birthday, sir. And thank you for your service and just living a good life.
That was tomorrow night?
Wednesday, yes, 5:30.
Wednesday, tomorrow night at 5:30.
Yes.
That's fabulous. Does that conclude your report?
That's my report.
All right, Commissioner Lockhart.
While we're doing birthdays, I'll do a birthday shout out to my dad. Today is his 92nd birthday. We got to celebrate together last weekend. Thank you very much. He's moving and grooving at 92. His great-great-grandmother lived to 105. Wow. So there's some good longevity genes there. I know. Wanted to let you all know that both Lynx and Sunrail board meetings have been canceled pretty much for the summer and this month, and I think we reconvene in September. Maybe we have September meetings on the schedule. I'm sure Ms. Allori can give you some updates on what is happening from a staff perspective with those two agencies. That would probably be a good thing to go ahead and schedule. Not here now, but yeah. She's a poor thing. She was like, oh my gosh, I got to get up there. No. At another time, individual updates would probably be really helpful. Thank you to Chris Patton and his team and the folks at Scout who brought out a vehicle to the American Legion in Oviedo, and there were about, I'm going to say 50 or 60 folks out there for their coffee time, and they had an opportunity to ask lots of questions and hear about how they can utilize Scout services. One of the things that was asked, and I said that I would bring it before the board for future consideration, I feel like everything has to have the caveat, depending on what happens in November. But for future consideration, having there be a direct connect to the Lake Nona VA facility. They really saw the potential opportunity for them to be able to access their medical care at the VA, which of course is not in Seminole County's boundaries, but perhaps there would be some creative way for us to think about that in the future. The medical examiner meeting a couple of weeks ago, last week, the item that was up on the agenda that we kind of had a question about, is this for informational purposes or voting purposes? It wasn't voted on, but they were asking whether or not there were any objections for it to come back to our individual boards. What it's basically doing is changing the language in the contract that's currently in place to reflect how we are actually operating. Several board meetings ago, we realized that we were not operating in accordance with the agreement. So we said, well, do we want to change the agreement to reflect the way we're actually operating, or do we want to change the way we're operating to reflect the agreement? And we said, let's amend the contract to reflect the actual process that's in place, so that without objection at the medical examiner board meeting, that change is going to come back to this board and all of the boards for consideration and ratification, and then go back to the medical examiner board, I believe.
Great.
I see some very perplexed faces.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, because
Presumes we like the way they're operating.
we went through, I think a year or two ago, all the county attorneys reviewed the contract to be sure it was consistent with what our purpose was. So I don't know what's changed there.
Well, so what has changed is that the medical examiner never shared with anyone that she was not operating in the way that the contract is written. So all of the attorneys were in agreement about what the language said.
Maybe I'm mistaken. Is it the contract between her and or between us as the parties?
Us, because it has to do with transporting of bodies.
Right.
And they were actually doing transporting even though it wasn't in the contract to do it. I believe I have that right, or is it the other way around? Is that correct? I'm going to look into Christian. It wasn't until a few months ago, which precipitated the scoring that I gave, by the way, that we were able, in our public meeting, to come to the conclusion that what all of the counties agreed on was not actually what was being implemented by the medical examiner's office. Christian, do you mind? You can clarify.
Christian Swinson, Assistant County Manager. So when Seminole joined District 5, there was a different set of rules in the interlocal agreement for us to pay a private firm to transport bodies. So as opposed to
Provide
tie up their
transportation.
vehicles, the
Yep.
medical examiner was supposed to contract with an outside agency to transport those folks to their facility. That's gone on a number of years. No one realized until a meeting a few months back that there was no call to that outside vendor to bring them in. Instead, they were utilizing the District 5 vans to pick up the deceased folks and bring them back. So it was a true-up to take out that caveat that we were supposed to do something different and make it the same as it was being done.
Okay, so the obvious question, is Marion County as the point entity on overseeing the medical examiner's board, their legal team is on that board, their fire division oversees the running of that operation. Was somebody not following up and watching those as them being the point organization, if you will, who provides all the oversight and et cetera? They just now caught that, or did we catch it to bring it to their attention?
I think it came to light as a result of my incessant, annoying questioning at the board meeting. I hesitate to say that another county wasn't doing their job, because I'm not sure how they would have known. It was such a random thing to stumble upon, to find that the piece that really impacted Seminole County's inclusion had changed. I don't think they would have had any reason to know that piece didn't ever occur. Is that a fair statement?
I understand what you're saying, but they are the administrative arm to that board.
Understood.
And they are also the administrative arm and part of the contractual agreement with the medical examiner, who is a separate entity. So, under what I think I'm hearing is, no one entity is actually auditing what's happening. Each entity is going to have to audit themselves through the contracts, through the medical examiner's contract with the consortium to determine if everything's being done that's contracted to be done.
If I may, the invoicing was supposed to apparently come to us directly. So I think how the confusion was brought to light had to come from a budget session where Commissioner Lockhart was questioning the purchase of vehicles. This is a convoluted thing. We had to provide certain vehicles for them to do certain things with their death investigators. We were doing that. They were requesting vehicles for transport, so we were like, well, hold on, we already have vehicles. And this kind of discombobulation of which vehicle belongs to who is how it come to light. This issue, then we said, well, hold on, we're supposed to be paying for the transport. Then it was like, as we looked into it, she wasn't billing us. You know, quite frankly, the bills go to a party of none of us were there. So after we looked into this and said, we're not getting bills, Marion wouldn't know we're not getting bills. The medical examiner had kind of veered left and was doing it the same way everyone else was doing it. So that's how it was a bit muddled with. I don't know if there was a check and balance that they could have necessarily have seen directly.
Right.
And quite frankly, we were a degree removed from the actual bills coming in to be able to see it directly ourselves.
Right.
I'm not sure that this is a bad thing for us.
Understood.
No,
I don't say that at all.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, how it got between the cracks.
Completely understand.
Commissioner Delary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Lockhart, for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, when this comes before us, I'd like to definitely see the contract and actually get a briefing from our staff so we can all be up on the same page. You obviously have more knowledge than we do because you and Commissioner Zimba have been further involved, as well as, I think, Commissioner Hurd, you've been to one meeting or so? No? Okay.
She's like, don't
I thought you-
Lucky lady.
I know nothing about birthing these babies.
I thought you were, but I'm sorry. I stand corrected. But I'd like to be brought up to speed with our staff, and so I'd like to read the contract.
Absolutely. And that contract will make its way back through the county attorney's office, and then I'm sure they'll be setting up briefings with.
And again, when I say
other
staff, it'll be the attorney's office as well as Christian, whoever else has been involved in it.
Absolutely.
And hopefully that's the only change in the contract.
I think there'd be more questions because.
the only one I've
Multiple
seen.
boards.
I believe that the same type of thing happened with cremation services, how they were handling, so the two are, it's very much the same. It's a transport and a cremation. It's one section of the interlocal agreement that's basically striking through everything that was making us different from everyone else, and why it was set up differently all those years ago. I don't think any of us can speak to that.
I can speak to that.
But do you have to?
No.
No, I don't have to, but
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's hold it for when this comes up.
So that's what happened at the meeting and what will be to come from the medical examiner, District 5 and 24. The other item that I wanted to put out for future thoughts and consideration when we start talking about bears again and bear management areas, there's been an uptick in bear activity in my district, which is interesting because it's more of the urban core of the county. But the area between I-4 and the 417 has seen quite an uptick in activity. And very few of the residents in that area have any idea that there are bear management areas in other parts of the county, or that there are tools that they can utilize to help limit the human-bear interactions or the getting into the trash or those sorts of things, because all of our efforts have really been in those bear management areas, and yet we've got a lot of bears in the urban area. The urban bear management area in the urban area. So I'd like to look at that if, when the next time we start having those conversations could come up. And that's the end of my report.
I would tell you that that is more than likely a result of the success of bear preservation. I see it firsthand. We're having a lot of babies every year, and they disband when they grow, so they're finding places to go.
yeah, within
And it's
2 or 3
not-
years, they leave mama.
And they're not going west, so some are probably going west, but we're having
Yeah.
multiple births a year. We all know them by name.
Well, they have good feed.
Well, and a Popka
Well,
garbage isn't as good as
Yeah,
ours.
and you shouldn't feed the bear, you shouldn't feed the ducks, and you shouldn't feed the deer, and you
Or the
shouldn't feed
bears.
the bears, and you shouldn't feed the turkeys. I
Or the
have a
sandhill
long list.
cranes.
Or
What about the
cranes.
birds?
No?
I agree.
No. All right, Commissioner
Only the
Valari.
chickens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I know we spoke about this briefly at the beginning of the meeting, but I want to congratulate the UCF Business Incubator Program for being #1 in the state. And I also want to congratulate our staff because they've actually been able to get them to go to Seminole State, their building as well. And I know a lot of work went into that, and so I want to thank UCF, Seminole State, and our staff for putting that all together. And it's quite an accomplishment to have such a good incubator program for our businesses, and I wanted to thank everyone involved. End of my report.
Thank you. All right, so the District 5 report, very brief. I attended a grand opening in the city of Sanford, but yesterday for a manufacturing plant, and it's pronounced Airnon Formulating Solutions on Tech Drive in Sanford. Wonderful family-owned business, well-paying jobs, et cetera, but the best part of it was the story shared by Mrs. Airnon, that they originally were moving out of Brooklyn to New Jersey. And
That's not right. Don't go there.
to New Jersey. No, hold on for it.
Are they going to come back?
We'll both be vindicated here. And the permitting process in New Jersey took so long and was so difficult and was pretty horrible that the property that they purchased in New Jersey appreciated while they were doing all of the work to try to get to build it.
course
And
they
they
did.
ended up in Florida, in Seminole County. So
There
I
you
thought
go.
that was a great story.
That is a good story.
So what we do matters, permitting matters, doing it well and efficiently matters. And then I'll switch to the chairman's report. I did get to welcome the Department of Children and Families Executive Leadership to the annex. We were doing a show and tell day on the opioid prevention program that we have here, and folks were touring. It was a good opportunity, really well done by our team. There is on 9/1 Overlook Park Improvement ribbon cutting that's happening.
That's right.
On 9/4,
I'll be flying in from Chicago that morning, early.
on 9/4, I have the opportunity to do a final mile ceremony at the Cape Canaveral Cemetery. which will take 2 deceased veterans to the cemetery for final interment, and there's no family on hand, so we'll be standing in. Yeah, awesome.
Great.
Who else
Good
is
stuff.
going? Is anybody else going? Awesome. We do have a 9/11, on 9/11, we have Leadership Seminole Government Day that Tricia heads up so well. I believe we have an event that day as well to commemorate 9/11. And my final comment is that the canvassing board tomorrow will wrap up the final meeting. It will be the audit. Final results, as you all know, were transmitted, and we can put a period at the end of the sentence for the first election being successfully done by the new supervisor of elections office.
Great.
And even in the last session, there were more positive comments from the League of Women Voters who had somebody in the room every time during this cycle as well as the last cycle. So, and I will say, I will be glad to be done with that, sure. That concludes my chairman's report. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Hearing nothing, I will adjourn the meeting.
Public comment?
Oh,